All right, these systems are a little bit more complicated than the last ones. They have their place, but they're definitely more complicated. Whenever you add a loop to something, you're obviously going to add the possibility for problems in tangles and stuff like that. But there are times when these are a little bit more effective. This system, as you can see, is much like the second and third system we looked at a second ago. This one, the lead is here, but we've got a dropper loop up above it. So the lead is still, we're still trying to establish bottom, keeping the bottom fly close to the rocks down here. And then this system up here, though, is just, it's not much different than having the fly here. It just lets the fly ride a little freer. See, I've got a dropper loop here. I only have to change, if I want to change flies, I've got 5-6 inches. There's a limit to how long you want to make this upper dropper. If it's too long, obviously, it's going to be down here. You don't want it dropping in here. I generally run my droppers somewhere between 6 and 8 inches and as short as 3 inches. But, the closer it gets, if you're making it 3-4 inches long, you might just as well tie in here. The idea on this one is that it's a little freer. It's floating a little freer. It's away from the line. And again, it's, coming down. You're hoping to get a nice straight line down. And what you're trying to establish is multiple water columns. You've got your adult nymph on the bottom and then your emergent fly up above. This is a really good system when you've got a caddis emergence. You can run your pupating caddis up here and run the larva down there. It's perfect. Now, moving on, this is a much more complicated system. I'm going to show you later a little bit, how to rig these. I have 3 dropper loops here. This is called a cast, or I was taught 3 flies was a brace, but in Davey Watten's tape, he talks a lot about fishing wet flies, and he uses doubles and triples all the time. This is the system that I used to use. I use this a lot for steelhead. The weight is on the very bottom. This is actually the end of the leader, and there's a knot, and my first dropper is coming off of that, the next dropper here, the third dropper here. Couple things to remember. You always make these sequentially shorter as they go up. The longest one's down here, then the next, and then the next, but they get shorter. So the lead, I've got a knot here so it can't slide off, and then I've got another knot above it which these loops bump into. Each one of these loops has to have a knot below it so they can't slide down your line. They all bump into knots. Each one has the same system. This system allows you to fish 3 different depths of water at the same time. Again, it's the most complicated system for sure. Each one gets progressively shorter. The longest one would be the bottom one. So we're trying to touch the bottom with the lead. We're dropping one off. This one's running another level completely. The top one would be much higher up, obviously. And then now we're spacing our flies out as much as 3 feet in the water column. The nice thing about this system is that this leader is all the same size. Generally, I run 2x all the way down. I place my knots, and you can do that in advance. You can put your knots anywhere you want. I usually space them at about 16, 18 inches, somewhere in there. And then I run these droppers off. The first one's going to be somewhere around 5-6 inches, then 10 inches, and then 18 inches, roughly. If they were all long, you'd make 2 casts, you'd come back, and you'd have a nest. They'd be all tangled together. So the shorter these, I always make this one shorter than this one, and this one's the longest. Now again, I've got it diagrammed up here. This is my little, the bottom of the river, supposedly. This is a perfect world. It's not going to be quite this straight up and down, obviously. So these flies, if they come in, they're going to start getting longer out here, and they're going to drop more like this at an angle. But in the perfect world, this is what you're looking for, because you're going to try to cover 3 different levels of the river, or you could use 3 different flies. Most people run it, they stop it at 2 flies like this. But as you can see, if you're only using 2, you haven't changed a lot, because the angle's going to, I'll pull this off here. I'm just going to lengthen. This is going to be more if it was like the other fly, let me get over here, it's going to start getting a little bit like that. So these are going to move out. These flies don't stay right on the end of the line, like they wouldn't be bowed out because the current's pushing these flies. But in a perfect world, it would be hanging like this, and we would carry 3 different stratas of water. 1, 2, 3. We fish the bottom, and these are going to get a little bit closer, so this would be just one coming up, and this one could be a wet fly. This could be an entirely different type of fly, but you're covering 3 different depths here. There is no doubt this is a complicated system, and if there's a system you're going to have problems and you're going to be getting things wound around, this is definitely it. But it's also a very effective way to fish if you're trying to cover 3 different depths of water. When you get really, really fast water with these systems, like real turbulent water, like the Madison here, these can be a little bit problematic with the 3rd fly, especially if it's shallow water. But if you slow your cast down and you set these things up right, you can fish this pretty efficiently, but you're going to, now and then you're still going to get it, no matter who you are, you're going to get a knot now and then. But I use a dropper loop on these, and I know a lot of people like to use the tag end of a surgeon's knot or a blood knot, where you tie your knot and you leave a longer piece hanging out. I don't like to do that, mostly because when I was doing this system, mostly I used it for steelhead when I started doing these loops. And the key to these loops is they move up and down the line. And so if I want to change, if you use the tag end of a line of the surgeon's knot or the blood knot, and you break this fly off and you want to change the length of this, you have to tie another blood knot or surgeon's knot, which means you shorten this distance up. And I don't like to do that. If you do this right, you can run this line as one piece. It could be 2x, for example. The whole thing could be 2x. And then I can drop my leaders off of it, say down to 4x or 5x, so they're always lighter than the other line. I never break this line, and so I can keep adding tags to it or the loops anytime I want, and I never change this initial setup. I generally run these about 16, 18 inches apart up the leader, and I can just station my loops wherever I want. If you wanted to put a knot every 10 inches, you could stagger that up and down however you'd like. But I like to use the loops just because I can change them quicker. And the other thing about them is that it doubles the lineup. As you can see right here, and we'll look at the loop in a minute, how you tie it. It doubles it up so it sticks the line off to the side. It's stiffer. It's 2 pieces of line instead of 1. And so it sticks it out to the side and keeps it away from your leader a little bit. So you have less likelihood of that spiraling down your leader and ending up with the fly all tangled up down here. It still happens occasionally, but it just helps out a little bit. But the big thing is that these things slide, and so if I hook a fish on the bottom fly or this fly takes off and he hits a rock or a log, I don't lose that upper fly or the whole system. It'll just slide up and hit the next knot, and usually it breaks at the fly that's not hooked to the fish. Okay, anticipating that we're going to move to smaller water, a little less volume than we had here, and anticipating that we're going to get a Baetis hatch, I put on a little olive hairs there. It's just a little Baetis pattern. I've got this about 14 inches below my split shot. I've changed to 4X. I've dropped it down a size. And then above that, about 18 inches, I've got another blood knot, which I'm going to attach the loop to, because I'm going to put a sparkle serendipity above this, a little midge like we were fishing here. And all you do is you put this on the back side of your line, take the loop in your hand, put it on the back side of the line, come over, run it through the loop, right here, and then just tighten it down above that knot. Now you see this can slide up and down, but it's going to butt into that knot right there. And that's going to be up, it's going to be hanging off here. I'm going to tie it about 5 inches off. I'm going to put a midge on there. It's going to hang above that's going to hang above the split shot. So it's going to be, I'm going to hit the Baetis on the bottom. They haven't started emerging yet, so I'm assuming they're lower to the bottom. So I'll have that fly on the bottom, and I'll have my dropper loop above it with the emergent midge on it. I'm going to use a same thing I was using here, a red crystal serendipity, which has got a little tiny hair head on it, which is going to keep it floating up a little above that. Generally speaking, you'd probably be running 5X on this if the water was real clear on a small, size 18 or 20 fly like that. But with the water off color a little bit, I like to go up at least one side. And with the fluorocarbon, you can go up a size, no problem. It's not as visible as regular monofilament. Now I'm moving downstream from where we started here. The water's going to be about 2 foot deep. I'm going to shorten that indicator up a little bit. I'm going to make it 3 foot because it's not moving as fast. I'm going to make it 1.5 times the water depth. If it's not enough, I'll move it up a little bit. I'm going to lighten my split shot. I'm going to move down to a single split shot because I think the water's a little softer down there. I'm still going to try to keep this 1.5 times the depth of the water if I can. If not, I'll go up to twice the water depth. Okay, I've moved over into this softer water. I still don't see any betas. I still think they're about to come off here. I want to fish the other side, but I walk down this island and I've got this soft pocket. So I want to, before I wade over there, of course, I want to fish the stuff that's right in front of me. I'm going to fish straight upstream. I've got the 2-fly rig on. I'm going to fish right up here. I'm going to kind of angle at it. Once I've covered this water and I feel confident I'm not going to put anything down, I'll walk over there. I've still got the betas, and I've got the crystal serendipity, which is a midge pattern. It's a red midge. I'm going to start in real close because I don't want to cast over the fish. See, I'm just going to shotgun this. I'm going to go upstream and I'm going to pick off. I'm going to section it off. I'm going to go like 2 foot every time. You got to keep up with your line. And if you can see the indicator, it's never touched. So obviously that's telling me I've either got to cast further up to allow to set. I just hit that time. I've either got to cast further upstream to allow it more sink time, or I've got to put more split shot on. I know it's not much deeper than what I'm standing in, so I'm just gonna throw up a little bit higher instead of putting on more split shot, because I know I'm gonna get hung up when I do that. Of all the ways to nymph fish, I gotta tell you, in fast water, this is my least favorite, because what you're seeing happening, I have to work so hard to keep up with the indicator like this, and if it hits right in front of me, I've got a lot of pickup to do. On softer water, where you don't have to, like this, where I don't have to work as fast, it's not so bad. But this is a tough way to fish in fast water. On the right side here, not so bad. On the left side, where it starts picking up volume, a little more problematic. The fish don't always stay in one place to feed. As the bugs start getting ready to hatch, these fish are going to start moving to the softer water on this right side. Right now, I think we're still a little bit early on them, so I'm going to move over to the left side, over to the deeper water where they stay when they're not actively feeding. As I know there's fish in here. So I want to fish it out before I go. Now, as I move over there, there's a little more volume than I anticipated here. I have one split shot on. And when I move over to this bank here, it's a little deeper, so I'm going to have to put another split shot on. Then, when I move up, I'm going to fish that left side because I think there's a big fish over there. Then when I move up, I'm going to come to the right side. By then, I think the betas will be moving a little more, and I'll have to take some off. When you're nymph fishing, you're seldom casting more than 20 feet of line. 25 maybe, but it's short casting and setting yourself up in position not to scare the fish. You want to have a stealthful approach. You want to make sure you don't, when you're doing it, especially when you're doing an upstream cast. Oh, there was one, missed him. Especially when you're doing an upstream cast, you want to make sure that you don't line the fish. You don't want to cast the line, the fly line, over top of where you think the fish are. That's why when I started here, I started casting real short, and I went in progressively, I went in about 10-foot increments. The leader's 10 feet long roughly, and that's what I did. I don't want to throw the fly line over the fish. When you're fishing with an indicator and split shot, 2-fly rig, what you'll notice is that I'm not trying to make a real tight loop. I'm lifting my line up high in the back. I want to open the loop up. I don't want it real compressed like if you're trying to distance cast or a real tight loop. If you do that, you're going to end up tangling your line a lot. The more open the loop is, the better. It's not as pretty as a, little poetic dry fly cast, but you won't be untangling your line all day. Just stop your rod a little higher in the back, let it unfold. Just real open, wide open loop. Let it hit straight out in front of you so it's not catching on your indicator constantly. Clouds are coming and going, but I'm seeing a bunch of swallows working, so I backed off of that fast water. I'm going to fish this softer right side. Those swallows are up there for a reason. I'm guessing that they're eating bait. Ooh, that was a pretty much automatic. I just had a caddis land on me a second ago, so I wasn't anticipating them this early, but I'll stick with this midge. I've got a red midge on, but it's actually a serendipity. I'm going to stay with that same fly, but I'm going to change the color of it because I saw the caddis and I'm not seeing any midges now. I'm going to put on a green one. I'm going to keep the same system, keep the dropper, keep it above, so if there's any caddis emerging, I'm going to just change the color of the fly. It's a good, it can be a caddis, it can be a midge. It's a pretty general fly. But I'll just keep working this bank, looking for anything that would tell me, oh, I'm out of control there on the pickup. That's why you gotta have more control. That's what I was talking about fishing upstream. That thing hit me so close, I was just getting ready to pick up and cast. I was totally out of control. He caught me right here. You saw I went like that because I was getting ready to cast. Never got a solid hook set, but it happens. I'm going to switch that red midge over to a green serendipity. Now I've had a couple fish eat. I'm just not sure I've got the right color fly on. So I'll just quick change off. I'm going to go to a green serendipity. I'm staying with the same system. Still have my Betis on the bottom. And now I'm just going to put on a dark, ooh, there it was, first cast. Maybe it worked. I generally stick with a system. Well, if I know I'm catching, hooking fish a lot, I'll stay with it until it turns off, but I don't spend a lot of time with the same flies if they're not working. I mean, 10, 15 minutes, usually about max. I like to have, when you know the water and you've got confidence in it, it's one thing. There's a little guy. When you've got a 2-fly rig on like this, just in case you lose your fish, try to get an eye on which fly it's taken before you land the fish in case you lose it. That last one that I lost was on the Betis. This one is also on the Betis. He's got a sculpin in his mouth. This one's got about a 3-inch sculpin, I don't know if you can see it, hanging out of his face. Can you see that? This guy's a pretty aggressive eater. He's got a 3-inch sculpin hanging out of his mouth, and he just ate my Betis. He's going to grow up to be somebody. He's an aggressive eater. All right. So now I'm pretty confident that that's 2 fish in a row that have eaten the Baetis. I've got a size 18 Baetis on in dirty water, and I've got a size 16, excuse me, Baetis, and a size 18 green Serendipity on dirty water. They're not having any trouble finding it. Just need to find one of those big fatties that's sitting in here. I'm going to give it one more cast. If I don't hit bottom on that cast, and I didn't, I'm going to put another B shot on, just enough to keep it right on bottom. You can see it's a little deeper right there. As soon as I get through this little pocket right here, I'm going to end up, I'll get up there and you can see it's going to get shallower, and I'll have to take this split shot off. But that's what we were talking about. You got to keep putting it on and taking it off. I just bumped real light right there. It was perfect. Try to keep up as you're stripping back at you. You try to keep up with the line coming at you without pulling on the indicator. Just enough so it's not, you're not out of control, but you're not stripping it so fast that the indicator moves every time you strip the line in. Again, I fished the water I'm going to be standing in first. I'm going to move out a little bit. I'm catching bottom a little bit more than I want to right now because I'm anticipating, I've got the same amount of lead on because I'm anticipating anticipating that fish eating it. I'm anticipating moving off to the left just a little bit where it's deeper, so I didn't take the lead off. I want to fish there. You can see the bottom. There's just a handful of boulders right there. I'm trying to work my way around those. I'm hooking one now and then, and a fish. Oh, nice little rainbow. He's happy. Hey, this guy wants to come to the net right now. He's a happy little guy. Now, I was just about ready to take that crystal Serendipity off, the caddis, and he ate it. So I guess I'll stake a couple more casts with it. That's the water I was gonna, I plan on moving right into that, so I'm just fishing the water before I get to it. And that, I can see the fish, the boulders, can't see the fish. I want to get out of this and fish this little bigger water, cross current. Then we're going to move up and try a different style of fishing up above here, just to see. Put another. That water's really slow on the right side. And I'm throwing off into the main current now. The indicator is right where I want the fly to be drifting, but it's out into the faster water. Nice. Hey, he's happy to be here. Now I'm trying to get up to that seam because I think most of the fish are in that seam. He's happy to go above me. I'm happy to have him do so. Nice fat brown trout. Hard to beat that thing. That's the first big brown. The best nymph fishermen are the ones that can go up the river. They can see the buckets ahead of time, get in position to fish them ahead of time, and not be wasting time on super fast water. I frequently see people fishing chutes like this, and they just get ripped through. They're never going to hook a fish. It's just a suicide fish when they get them. But the best anglers are the ones that pick this stuff apart. Look for the seams, look for the shelves where the contour of the bottom changes, and then obviously these soft pockets like this where they can actively be nymphing. I'm going to move downstream here and see if I can't redeem myself on that little hole down there on a big brown trout. But the key to what we've seen is that it's positioning. We're trying to get ourselves in position to be where the fish are, and we're trying to have total control of the line by working our reach cast. So when we reach upstream, our fly line is above the indicator. So we've got control of the indicator. We fish it like a dry fly. Oh, we get a big old fat rainbow. It comes up and eats it. But what we're looking for is control. We're looking for control of the indicator and control of the flies underneath it by our positioning. And I'll probably scoop this one just because he's not that big. Whoa, come here, buddy. But when you've got fast current like this, you've got a situation that the fish is below you. You've got virtually no control. Come here. He's more wiggly in the net than he was. Nice little rainbow. Spotty little job. Go for a swim. So let's head upstream. We'll go to some real clear water. Try a couple different techniques. Of course, it's impossible for me to just leave and not fish my way out. But we'll just head up to work some emergent systems, a little different technique in rigging, but not really that much different in the way we're going to approach it. Oh, daddy. Oh, daddy. Oh, ho, ho, gone, daddy. Well, well, well.